Pittsburgh Pirates, Tampa Bay Rays, and Houston Astros make a three-team deal, with the Pirates getting Brandon Lowe as the headliner in this deal, Jake Magnum and Mason Montgomery, where Mike Burrows went to the Houston Astros, and the Tampa Bay Rays, where they're selling off pieces and rebuilding, get Jacob Melton and Anderson Brito. So to start with that, Brandon Lowe, the biggest piece in this deal. Last season, big home run year was for Brandon Lowe, 31 home runs, 83 RBIs, 79 runs scored. 3 stolen bases, a 256 average, and a 307 on base. So Lowe, we know he has power. We know he has pop. And this Pittsburgh Pirate team desperately needed someone in the middle of the lineup who has power and pop. So I think the numbers could go down a little bit, where last season, obviously, half his games at home were in the minor league stadium with the Rays, and that goes to PNC Park, where it's a hit-or-miss type of stadium. But especially in the early parts of the year, that ball don't carry it all, obviously, with the cold weather over there in Pittsburgh. But like I said, Pittsburgh, they needed to make some impact and get an impact bat, and Brandon Lowe most likely will be their third or fourth hitter for this Pittsburgh Pirate team. So in terms of fantasy baseball, he's someone I would take, is Brandon Lowe, anywhere from that 7th, 10th round range. He's going to bring you pop, qualifies at second and outfield. And like I said, Pittsburgh, they really wanted him in this deal. They get Mason Montgomery as well. Been a solid reliever in the past, even though last season he was batting practice, 46 in the innings, 1-3 record, a save, 63 Ks, a 5.67 ERA, 1.65 whip. So they threw him in that deal. He's not going to have any fantasy value, obviously, unless by chance he's in high leverage situations in the closer. But at this time, he's not more than a mop-up guy, and a guy who's going to verse lefties after a bad season last year. And in 2024, where he couldn't do anything, where he barely was in the majors with only 9 2/3. And to Jake Magnum, who I thought at times showed flashes last season. He showed average, he showed on base, he showed he could steal bases, but in terms of power and RBIs, he's not going to bring that. But defense and base stealing and a late inning pinch runner is what Magnum can bring. But like I said, this Pittsburgh Pirate team, they had a lot of holes to fill, and they do it in this deal, getting Brandon Lowe, one of the better second base corner outfield combo guys in the league. And also Magnum, who could steal bases and is a decent fourth outfielder. But in terms of fantasy baseball, even if he has an everyday job like he almost did last year in 400 at-bats with the Tampa Bay Rays, the only thing he's really going to give you is 2 categories in stolen bases and the batting average. So like I said, maybe a late round flyer on Magnum, but nothing more than that. Now to Mike Burrows, it's a good landing spot for him in Houston, where the Astro team has Framber Valdez as a free agent, and it doesn't look like Valdez as of now is going to come back to this Astro team, and he'll slide into one of those rotation spots as Mike Burrows. So Burrow last season, he showed some good flashes. He had a couple decent ball games with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and obviously his fantasy value goes way up going to Houston instead of one of the worst teams in the league with Pittsburgh. 96 innings, 2-4 record, 97 Ks at 3.94 ERA, at 1.24 whip into quality starts. So like I said, he's going to go right in the rotation, especially Framber Valdez obviously isn't going to come back in free agency. And he's someone I would take in the later rounds, anywhere from that 15th round or later, where he could be a guy that is a starter but also qualifies as a reliever, which could help in points leagues as well. Like I said, it's a good landing spot. Burrows over there with the Houston Astros. And now Jacob Melton is going to get an opportunity, where last season he had a cup of coffee in the majors. No home runs, 7 RBIs, 7 stolen bases, 7 runs scored, a 157 average, and a 234 on base. But like I said, there's a good possibility he could get one of the outfield spots with Magnum gone. Also Brandon Lowe gone, even though he was second base majority of the time for the Tampa Bay Rays. But like I said, this Ray team's rebuilding. They traded Shane Baz away, and they're unloading some money off the books. And Melton is a guy getting an opportunity, but not someone I'm obviously going to go out there in my fantasy drafts and get right away. So on basis and see, obviously, if he has a starting job, is Melton. In terms of Brito, he's been a minor leaguer. He's a decent prospect. He hasn't been in the majors yet. And we'll see if he's going to be in the rotation this season, where there's openings as well for this Tampa Bay Ray team. So 3-team trade, Brandon Lowe, big piece going to the Pittsburgh Pirates. Mike Burrows, the big piece going to Houston. And Tampa Bay, they get money off the books and they get younger with Jacob Melton and Anderson Brito. And we'll see how this trade impacts these teams and fantasy baseball for the upcoming 2026 season.